today we are here with Assistant Administrator Bill Blatzheim, right? I got that name right?
That's right.
Awesome, man. So I'm super excited to be here at Apple Valley. Obviously, I told you that I graduated here in 1996, and I have some awesome memories with athletics and with academics and growing up in the District 196 school system, and specifically Apple Valley, Valley Middle. So I'm really excited to come back home and talk with you about, I graduated in 96 and now we're in 2019.
Yep.
Like that's quite a few years,
Yeah.
Things have probably changed a little bit. And when I walked in the school, this complete remodel, that's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about that remodel?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago our community passed a bond issue, and part of that was redoing the front entrances of every school in the district. Part of that was a safety and security related thing. We wanted to create more safe and secure entrances. You experienced that when you came in today. You can't get in the building without talking to a live person, going through a security check. That was part of what we did. And then, recognizing the age of this building a little bit and trying to give it a little facelift. So part of our remodel was a new student commons area and a new student services office. So yeah, when you walk in the building now, it's this brand new, bright, much more open look than it used to be. You remember your time here, it was a little bit darker. The carpet was all weird colors and things like that. Yeah. So we remodeled that front entrance. We remodeled a lot of our classrooms and created a lot of new learning spaces around the building to kind of look forward with our new educational mission, talking about being a STEM school and things like that.
What does that remodel mean to the culture or the environment of your school?
I think one of the great things that it does for our culture is it sends a message to our kids and our teachers that there's value from our community, that our community values these schools, and that they want them to be places that are, safe, first of all, and also just provide the resources and environment that kids need to learn and learn well. So it's this reaffirming message every day when you walk in the building that a community around stands up and says, this place is important, we're going to invest in it, we're going to value it, and we're going to say it's important because what happens here every day is so important to the future of our community.
Right. The other thing that I noticed from a security standpoint, which is something that, I do a lot of social media, and that was like one of the number one things is, talk about security, ask them about security. And I know when I went to school here, it was coming in and out of school freely. There was just, the door was open to everybody, right?
Yep.
But today I walk in and you have a check-in, they take my picture, they check my ID, my driver's license. I'm guessing that the remodel had something to do also with security. So can you tell us a little bit about Apple Valley and how they pride themselves on the security and what they do to do that?
That was one of the driving forces in our community when we talked to the community about wanting to remodel these entrances. Safety and security was the number one importance. We talk about that. It's just a primary priority for us every day is that our kids come here and are safe. And so yeah, part of that remodel was building a new front door, not like the one where you could just walk in and go left or right and just walk anywhere in the school the second you were in the door. The doors are all locked now. The inner doors of the school are all locked. So you can walk in the front door and be inside the inner vestibule, but you cannot get in the building where the students are without talking to a person, having your ID scanned. That ID system is tied into a national database that allows us to know if folks are trying to get in who maybe have a background that says, hey, this is not a person you want inside your school building, so our security folks can check that. And yeah, you have to go through and you have to talk to that security person first. And that's just part of assuring our students that they're safe every day that they're here. Learning is of primary importance, but you can't learn if you don't feel safe. So we want our community to know, we want our students to know, you're safe here. This is a place where we're going to make sure the only people in the building are the people who are supposed to be in the building. And then once that is taken care of, then the learning can take place after that.
So with safety and security, obviously, the big thing is school shootings. Nobody likes to talk about that,
Nope.
but yet it happens way more frequently than you would expect.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing, but there's also the social media aspect of being safe and secure in the school.
Mm-hmm.
There's bullying, there's peer pressure, there's things like that. At Apple Valley, how do you try to address things like that for the kids?
Yeah, so we talk a lot about a culture of Valley Vision, and Valley Vision is something that we developed in conversations with our students years ago. We talk about respect, we talk about responsibility, we talk about being ready to learn, and we talk about being student scholars, and we use that language with our kids all the time. And if our students are recognizing behaviors that don't fall in line with that Valley Vision, that's not responsible, that's not respectful, we encourage them to come down and work with us and talk to us. We have a very open door in our attendance and discipline offices. Our attendance and discipline administrators have great relationships with all of our students, are constantly out in the hallway talking to kids, working with kids, making sure that kids know that all the adults in this building are here to help. And if you see something that's not in line with what we know is good behavior, things that we want for students, come find us. We're helpful people, and if the adult you're talking to doesn't know exactly what to happen next, they'll put you in touch with the adult that can do something about it. So yeah, we're not immune to those things. High school is high school, but we work really hard to have relationships with our students and let them know that we're here to help them feel safe, help them be good learners, and create an environment that's for learning. And we work really hard to build that culture of respect and responsibility.
Well, and culture is, a really important thing within a high school or any public organization, but specifically a high school with kids. So, let's say I'm a new parent and I'm relocating from maybe out of state, or I'm coming from, northern Minnesota, and I got relocated down to the Minneapolis area, and I'm trying to find the perfect school, right? I'm in real estate, and I come across those kind of families all the time that Tim, where should I go? Where should my kid go to school? I'm not familiar with the area. The other thing is that I think parents are really concerned about role models. If I'm going to take my child, bring them from someplace and bring them to someplace new, they don't nobody. Maybe they're in 9th grade or whatever, or it's a transition. They need a role model. They need somebody to get acclimated to the environment. And so one of the questions I always like to ask is, how do you give these new kids or the freshmen role models to get used to this environment into high school?
Yeah, so we just started this year actually a new advisory program. So it's 15 minutes out of our day, every day, where students meet in small groups, a group of 20 or less.
Oh, wow.
And it's a 9th through 12th grade advisory. So if I'm a 9th grader, there's probably 4 or 5 other 9th graders, 4 or 5 10th graders, and the 12th graders in that advisory are student leaders.
Oh, wow.
They're people who have been here, and they can say, hey, this is kind of the way to get around the school. These are the ways that things do things. And then those students will work with their teacher, who's their advisor, for 4 years. So they'll have a chance to develop that relationship long term with that teacher as well. And as they get to know that teacher, if they have questions or they're concerned about something.
Is that like homeroom?
Yeah, it works similar to a homeroom model in that sense that, it's a place they go every day.
Okay.
And it's a teacher that they will see every day, regardless of what trimester it is, what grade they're in. And part of it is about that relationship piece. It's when we talk about building our culture here, relationships is a huge focus for us, making sure that there's good relationships amongst the students, between students and teachers, between 9th grade students and 12th grade students. And we're seeing that culture being built even more positively through this advisory program this year. Our students are connecting with teachers more. We ask our students, do you feel like you have a good connection with at least one adult in this building? And we're seeing the answer to that question shift in a positive way as we start this advisory model this year. Because they know that no matter what, I'm going to see this teacher today, and I know her, and I can ask her this question, and if she doesn't know the answer, she can show me the person that does. So we're working really hard on building those relationships and creating those chances for older students to mentor younger students, show them the way, show them how things work here at Apple Valley.
Yeah, that's really cool. So the next thing that we have to talk about is this STEM school. Mm-hmm. I mean, are you kidding me? So you guys, before we started this interview, you showed me around, and then you showed me your, your STEM facility?
Yeah, so the specific place you and I were in was called our Fab Lab, or our fabrication lab.
Yeah.
About 5 years ago, Apple Valley, along with a couple of community colleges in the area, wrote in for and won a multi-million-dollar grant from the Department of Labor called an E3 STEM grant. And it's from the Department of Labor because specifically they were looking at, as things move forward, wanting to create a workforce that has all of the STEM skills that we need. And so we won this grant.
Well, tell us a little bit before you go into that. Like, okay, so you won this grant, but is this schools from all across the nation? Is this schools just from Minnesota?
Yeah, so this was
give me a scope on
this. Was a nationwide grant that we won, and I think there were, I'm not gonna know the exact number, but in the number 10 to 20 high schools nationwide that won this grant. It's a very.
Were you invited to apply for the grant, or was just 20 that applied?
It was open to anybody to apply for. We applied for it knowing that on the west side of our school district right now, our district has been working on developing a STEM corridor. So we have elementary and middle schools that are also working to be STEM schools and to teach these STEM disciplines. And students from all across our district are coming to the west side of the district to be part of the STEM corridor, to go to Cedar Park Elementary and Valley Middle School, and then to Apple Valley High School. So they come because of these STEM offerings that we have. And so knowing that our other younger schools, if you will, were offering that, we knew we wanted to look for resources to help us build our STEM program, and that STEM grant was a perfect opportunity for us.
Okay. Yeah, so give us a little bit more. So you guys won the STEM grant for $3.5 million.
Yeah.
And what did you do with it?
So one of the biggest things we did was we created some resources. We built our Fab Lab, which is where you and I were, where students have access to 3D printers, laser engravers, vinyl cutters, all kinds of different activities, and they learn about the engineering and the coding that goes into making those things. We designed some specific classes and a specific program that kids can take to learn to use those things, but we also made it a mission to take take STEM programming and infuse it throughout our entire school. To talk about, having an English class that works with a local business to, we have an English class called Writing for STEM Disciplines, and they work with local businesses to write, project manuals and things like that, and they go down into the Fab Lab as part of their English class and develop and build the different pieces that they're writing about in the class. So they're writing, they're learning about the writing, but then they're also building and working hands-on, and it's all part of one project. The grants also allowed us to create a lot of business partnerships with well over 30, 40 different local businesses that come in. They either bring in people to work with our students, or they've donated time or money, or different pieces of equipment that we've stocked our Fab Lab with. So we've created this great partnership with businesses in the area.
Like what kind of businesses?
All different kinds of businesses. We work with businesses like Dakota Electric and also BTM Global, which is a business in downtown Minneapolis. We work with, I'm going to forget the name of it now. It used to be Goodrich, UTC Aerospace Systems in Burnsville. We have a lot of their engineers coming in and working with our students on different aerospace engineering, things like that. But it's businesses architecture firms, not necessarily what you would think of as like STEM, engineering things. We have all kinds of different businesses coming in because they want students with those 21st century skills, those problem solving skills, those ability to ask questions, look at the big picture, pull things apart, how do things work, and work with other people, work in a collaborative way to try and solve problems.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's really cool. And one of the things that I keep mentioning with all the different principals that I talk to is that you definitely can see a shift in how CEOs of major companies think. The CEO of IBM said, I don't hire, or we're not going to hire people because they have a 4-year degree or they have a master's degree. We're going to hire people because they have the skills that we need. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they even have to be of college age. That's almost mind-blowing to think about that they're thinking that it all comes down to the skills and how somebody applies them, not necessarily all the different degrees. Like back when I was going to school, it was like, well, yeah, we're not going to really talk to you until you've done college or done masters, or then come talk to us and we'll talk about. Where now they're like, well, I don't care if you're 15, if you're amazing on a computer and can do what I need you to do. I'll still give you a job.
We have students who are in our program right now that are getting full paid summer internships at different engineering firms around, and they're 16, 17 years old and getting paid internships to do those kinds of things. And certainly college is not going anywhere. It's part of what we do, and we talk about being college and career ready, right? So we have a student next year who's going to Stanford. We have students who are at Harvard. We're a college prep school. We prepare those kids for those opportunities, but we also recognize that the landscape is shifting and changing, and sometimes the path for a different kid is a different path, and we want to make sure that he or she has those opportunities. And our STEM programming gives kids opportunities to say, hey, I'm building my skills, connect right to a job, and then along the way, maybe they go back, they get that bachelor's degree. Those things still happen for a lot of kids, but giving kids as many opportunities as possible, because every kid's path is different, and making sure that we recognize all those paths. And our STEM programming is a big part of making sure we broaden that path and those opportunities for kids.
With that STEM, one of the other things that you mentioned was the chance for kids to build projects for these businesses who are supporting your programs, but then sit in front of CFOs, COOs, CEOs of major companies and give a presentation at 15, 16 years old or 17 years old.
Right.
I mean, tell me what that's like. That's got to be really cool.
I think for those students it can be very nerve-wracking, but yeah, you're right. All of a sudden the end motivation is no longer, well, I've got to get this project done by December 15th so I get an A in English class, and we want our kids to get A's in English class, right? But the real world is, I got to get this done by December 15th because my boss needs to see this, right? And so yeah, these students as part of these projects will present to the executive boards of different companies, and that's a big wake-up call for them. And it's not just about the grade anymore. This is a real deal, and it's a real world experience. So now when they're 22, 23 and they've got to go give that presentation in the boardroom for the first time, they're not shaking in their boots the same way they might if they hadn't had that experience in high school. So trying to make sure that the kids understand how the real world is going to work when they get out there is a big part of what we're trying to do.
That's smart. That's smart. I love it. And the STEM, so being a STEM school, I mean, you guys won an award for being nationally recognized as a STEM school. And you guys are almost, I'm bragging for you, because again, you're my alma mater high school, right?
Appreciate that.
But you've won this award, and now you're almost becoming a model for other schools, whether it's local or even potentially across the nation, for becoming STEM schools or understanding how STEM even works.
Right. Yeah, we have people coming in all the time. We just had several executives, including the VP of US Education from Microsoft in here, wanting to see what we were doing, what are we doing in our Fab Labs, what are we doing in our classes, what is inquiry mindset, what does that kind of thinking look like in a social studies classroom, because we're teaching kids how to think differently in those classrooms, and they wanted to come in and see what we're doing. And yeah, we just won National STEM Model School Award from the Future of Education and Technology Conference, which was a national level award, a big deal. One of 3 finalists from across the nation, and then the award winner, which we're very proud of and we're really happy about. We're trying to sing that from the mountaintops a little bit. So.
Congratulations, man. I'm proud of that too, as an alumni.
And it's something that our whole community, I think, can be proud of, knowing that we have a model school right here in our city.
Yeah. So with all these awesome things that are going on through STEM, give us some of the guiding principles that you lead on in Apple Valley High School.
So we talk about Apple Valley being a STEM school dedicated to academics, arts, athletics. We've talked for a long time in our history, even before STEM was a thing, about being a AAA school, academics, arts, and athletics. And part of that goes back to what we were saying about giving kids opportunities and recognizing that learning happens all over the place. It happens on the basketball court, it happens on the theater stage, and that those things are all part of becoming, your best self and having a chance to go out in the world and make a difference.
Right.
And so we want to make sure that those STEM disciplines are infused through all our classrooms, but we tell our kids all the time, don't be a 7:30 to 2:20 kid. Get involved in something. Join the quiz bowl team, be in the musical, be on the football team, things like that. And we still have a big emphasis on that, even as we talk about being a STEM school, making sure that all those co-curricular opportunities are a big part of what our kids can do and what they have an opportunity to do while they're here. So those are big drivers for us, talking about giving kids opportunities and having kids be part of the community.
Well, and I mean, athletics in Apple Valley is no joke. You guys are winning state championships all the time.
Number 3 overall, state championships in the state of Minnesota, and the other 2 schools.
Number 3 overall?
Overall, and the other 2 schools that are ahead of us on that list are quite a bit older. Apple Valley's only been around since 1976. You go in our gym and you look at all the banners that are hanging in there, and then you look closer and you realize they're only state championship banners. We don't hang section championship banners. We don't hang conference championship banners, and we have a lot of banners hanging in that gym, and we're very proud of that legacy of success. And legacy of success too in the arts world. Our speech and debate program is consistently one of the top 10 in the entire country, win a School of Excellence award pretty much every year at the National Speech and Debate Tournament. So we have a lot of opportunities and a lot of excellence across our arts activities and athletics disciplines, and we're very proud of that success.
And with all this success comes obviously special needs. We can always talk about the kids that overachieve, that are straight A students, go to Harvard, that are amazing athletes and go and play at Duke and all these wonderful things. But then there's also the student that, maybe they have special needs, maybe they are struggling a little bit more with school, it's just not their thing. I have a daughter who has type 1 diabetes, so I understand special needs, and I understand what it's like to have a child who needs a little extra attention, right? Because of those. Give me a little bit of an idea of how you guys address those things for parents and for the children who have special needs.
Well, the number one thing that we do is we have a very open door, and we have lots of adults in this building who create relationships with students and with families. And if parents ever have questions or concerns, they can call. We have counselors, we have administrators, we have special ed teachers, folks who are here to help make plans for kids who need things like that. We also try to offer as many opportunities as we can for everybody to be a part of the community. We just started this year a unified Phi-Ed class.
Oh, cool.
So our students who are in one of our center-based programs for kids with cognitive or physical disabilities take a Phi-Ed class with students in a regular ed or a Phi-Ed class for kids with kind of regular physical abilities. And it's a combined class. They work together, and that's such a great learning opportunity for all the kids in that class. They play floor hockey, and you go down and you watch the joy on the kids' faces, and I'm talking every kid, across the board. So we work really hard to make sure that we create plans for students and create individualized opportunities for students who have special needs, but also to make sure that they know that they're part of the Apple Valley community, same as anybody else. If you're
they're normal, right?
You're an Apple Valley student, you're an Eagle, you have Eagle pride, and you're part of what we do.
Right.
So we work to balance that out and make sure we take care of every kid, give them what they need, give them the things that they need, but also make sure that doesn't ostracize a student or make her feel like she's somehow separate from the rest of the community. We create as many opportunities as we can to bring everybody in the door. We're all Eagles here.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. So the next thing about that though is the parent, right? When you have a child with special needs, you have good days and bad days, right? And on some of the bad days, it's hard as a parent to bring your child to school and let them go, and not be the parent 24/7.
Right.
So how do you communicate with that parent to make sure that they feel comfortable that, maybe on that bad day that my child is doing okay, and if they aren't, that at least I know about it, and maybe I'm communicated with to give me that reassurance that, they'll be okay.
Yeah. So we have a lot of resources. The number one thing that we do with students is that we open those lines of communication lots of different ways with parents. If we're working with a parent, we say, hey, we'll give you a phone call and give you an update on how things are going, or we'll send you an email, or parents are always welcome to call us, call our counselors, call our administrators, email us, and we pride ourselves on being able to respond to those really quickly. If a parent has a concern, that immediately comes to the top of our priority list, whatever we might be doing. If I have a voicemail from a parent sitting in that's a number one priority for me, because we respond to our parents, we respond to our families. That's how we take care of our community. We also have a number of resources. We have different resources, like our students are connected both to Schoology and Infinite Campus, which are pieces of technology, and there are parent resources. Parents can log into those systems too. They can see real-time updates on their students' attendance, real-time updates on their students' grades. We have kids all the time who, hey, you accidentally just marked me tardy, and I know about it because my parents just got pinged that I was tardy to third hour and I was here. Can you please go in and change that? Because their parent will text them and say, hey, why were you tardy to third hour? Oh, you're right. Sorry, I marked. So we have a lot of these real-time resources too that allow parents to stay connected to the school and say, hey, I see you're missing this assignment. We got to get this done. So there's lots of ways for parents to stay connected. Number one is we reach out and we respond to parents, but there's other ways for parents to just see quickly too an update on how their kid's doing at school.
That's cool. The next question is going to be a little bit, it's just reality, it's life. Like, not everybody's perfect. Mm-hmm. Not every school's perfect, mm-hmm. right? So if there's one thing that you could do better here, or that you're focused on trying to do better at Apple Valley, what is it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I've talked a lot about community, and I talked a lot about opportunities, and we work really hard to make sure that we have a good community and that all of our kids feel like they're included in that community, that they all have opportunities. But we know kids come through here and we'll leave and say, hey, I wish I would have been more connected to this. And I think that's always our biggest challenge, and I think it's one of the things we're always working on is how can we make sure that every kid feels connected to the school. And that's a big goal, and that's a tough goal, and there are days we hit it and there are days that we don't. But we try every day to make sure that we're out in the hallways working with kids, making sure they all have a chance to do something that is important to them. So I think that's our biggest challenge, and that's what we try to do, is make sure that that sense of community is built every day for every kid.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So again, I'm an entrepreneur, and I always am thinking with a business mind. I love the STEM school thing. That is heads and tails, just like fascinating me today. Mm-hmm. But the world's changing with the skills, and then with college education. And kids, I feel like when they are thinking about going out into the real world, whether that's a job or whatever it might be, it's kind of confusing to understand what's the path these days. Mm-hmm. What are your feelings on entrepreneurship, kids thinking about being entrepreneurs? Because I remember back when I was going to school, entrepreneurship was just a word that you didn't even really know what it was. Mm-hmm. Today, I feel like it's a word that's pretty prominent, mm-hmm. and because of the internet, it's young kids are learning about it a lot sooner. Mm-hmm. So how do you see kids and trying to find clarity in a path for them?
Right. We have lots of different course offerings. Like you're talking about entrepreneurship. We have in a very direct way, we have a business department, business classes where students can learn different business principles, accounting, things like that, just so they have an understanding of the foundations of those business principles. So we have students who take those classes, but even things like through our STEM program, just the connection to business, right? It's not some thing that happens out there. We have business professionals in our building practically every day working directly with our students, talking about, well, this is how things work at my company, and these are the kinds of skills that we're looking for, and these are the kinds of things. So I think that connection and those partnerships allow our students to very directly and tangibly experience how they can create a path forward for themselves and what that might look like for them in the real world. It's not just something that you read about in a textbook or will happen after you get a degree. It is a thing that happened on Thursday afternoon when you sat in the library with the CFO of a local company who said, these are the things that we're looking for in the kids that we're trying to hire. That's real. That's right in front of you, and it's right in your face. So I think it helps those kids in a very tangible way understand what might be next for them when they leave here.
That's cool. So the last question I have is, every great school has great students, and because of the great students, they have great teachers. Mm-hmm. I think teachers are made from the students, mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, that's who they serve.
We're nothing without them.
What I think is really cool when we talked before we came on the interview is that you said it's amazing how many students come back to be teachers and have that eagle pride here at Apple Valley. And tell us a little bit about not just the teacher or the students that come back to be teachers, but also how do you find the awesome teachers that you have here at Apple Valley High School?
So we do pride ourselves on that sense of community, and when I look, I think we have 10 or even 12 folks on staff right now who graduated from here, myself included. A lot of our coaches now are folks who graduated from here in the 90s, early 2000s. A couple of my own classmates are math teachers here, counselors, things like that. And that's number one. That tells us that the experience of being here was so great for so many people that they wanted to come back and be a part of it for the rest of their lives, as their career, as what they do. And I think that speaks volumes about the sense of community that's built here. This was not just a place that you came for 4 years and got your high school diploma and walked out. For so many folks, this was a place where, no, this is unique and I want to be a part of that. And we're always looking for just the best folks that we can find. People who see teaching as not just a like, yep, I'm going to get up, I'm going to teach my 5 classes, I'm going to leave. Our teachers are coaches, they are mentors, they are advisors, they are folks who are always going the extra mile to build that relationship with kids, to work with them after school, to work with them on the hockey rink, to work with them on the theater stage, places like that. Our teachers are invested in this place as a community. It's not just a series of classrooms where they stand at the front of the room, but they want to work with these kids, they want to make sure that they make something of themselves, not just that they get a grade and move on. So we're always looking for people who are wanting to join a community, who want to be part of a community that has a lot of pride and has a history of success and wants to continue to make that success move forward.
That's awesome. Bill, I've asked you a ton of questions, but I think it's your chance to really, talk about something that maybe I didn't ask about that you get asked on a regular basis, or that, comes up in your day-to-day work.
Mm-hmm. I think we talk a lot. I think when you think about the words I used today, relationships, community, opportunity, those are all big things for our kids. And we have a very unique building here that I think when folks come in and visit it, and that's one thing I would encourage folks who are listening to this interview to do, too, if they're curious to learn more about Apple Valley or curious about where their kids could go to school if they're moving to the Twin Cities community, to come in and visit us. We find that once people come in and visit, they don't really want to leave. This is a place where once you've seen it and you've experienced it and you've felt it, you realize what we've got going here is unique and wonderful, and they oftentimes want their family to be a part of it, and we want their family to be a part of it. So I would just throw that out there to anybody who's listening to this. If they're curious to learn more, our doors are open for folks, and we want to show you what's going on. We want to tell you what's up, because we love this place and we think it's great, and we want it to be a great experience for anybody who comes through the doors.
That's awesome, Bill, man. Thank you for taking the time to have this interview today.
I appreciate this.
I think families and parents and kids are going to learn a lot from this about Apple Valley High School. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah.